Welcome. My name is Carl Johann Schroeder, and this is my meetup called Inner Selves for Outer Mastery, where we master the inner world. And that's where the action is. That's where the growth is. That's what we need to master to understand the world today, which is a scary place if you don't know what's going on. And today we're going to talk about the survival reactions. There are 4 major survival reactions that you need to understand, you need to watch out for, because they are a trap. Survival is a trap. Survivalism, where basically you're getting by one more day, but actually you're winning the battle, but you're losing the war. That's a great idiom I like. You win the battle, you survive another day, but actually the whole world is getting worse. And you can feel it. You're going to die. You're going to die. So that's what drives survival reactions, is that you this feeling of you're going to die. And that feeling is very important to understand and to master, because you won't ever die. You are actually an eternal being, an eternal spiritual being who will never die. But you have come into this creation of yours, this creation of the mind, which is the physical reality. So the physical reality is very real in the sense of relationships and experience. It's like a great movie. You know, when you go to a great movie with your friends, you get really immersed in the movie. And it's perfectly real in terms of your experience, what you can learn from it, how it affects your life. But is it real when the lights come up and it's over and you're with your friends and you want to talk about the movie? No, the movie was an experience. Well, that's what physical life is. It's an experience which is very real, and you share it with your friends. And your friends are your soul family and your spiritual community. So I like to make a distinction there. Your soul family, you actually have your own part of the universe, your own version of the entire universe. You are the universe experiencing itself. That's a big thing to wrap our minds around. But basically what it means is that the universe is backing you up. You have the full faith and power and love of the universe inside of you, ready to apply itself to your life. You are going to be guided in everything you need to do so that you can find the most positive use, the most loving solution to every situation. The universe has for you everything you will ever need and want in the best way to get it, in the best way to understand everything that's been going on. That's the universe. The universe is inside of you, ready to guide you to have the most amazing life forever. And that is how you are the universe. You are a form of the universe, applying the love of the universe to itself, becoming you. So you will always become more of the universe. And there are ways to package that, to understand that. People call it God. God is Great Spirit, all it is, Creator, whatever you want to call it, the source behind your life is a guidance, is a love, so that you will always have what you need to thrive. You're meant to thrive, just like you would like your own body to always be healthy, all the organs within your body to be healthy. Why would you want any part of you to not function as beautifully and smoothly as it could? Well, that's how the universe feels about you. All of creation wants you to be healthy and thrive forever. And that is absolutely possible. That is not only possible, that's probable, that's actual, that's what's been happening underneath, behind the scenes. So even though you may have been experiencing a life of hardship, of deprivation, of lack, of failure, there's a way to understand this, because actually you've been very successful at these experiences of failing, of lack, of deprivation. You've had an abundance of lack and deprivation. You've had the pain of being separated from what you can imagine, you can well imagine, and your imagination is what's real. So it's just like imagine that there's this huge blockbuster movie. All the greatest actors, all the huge budget, lots of like great screenwriters and sets and designs and special effects and everything go into this fabulous, fantastic movie. But it's a movie, it's about hardship, it's about suffering. It's a really heartbreaking movie. And some people enjoy that and some people don't. So that is a metaphor for your life. Everything, amazing resources have gone into making the movie of your life. Now, you may not like it. You may not like the movie of your life. Sure, there were some wonderful scenes. I mean, every movie has at least a few things you can enjoy. Maybe some background, some product placement for your favorite product or something, or just one of these movies that's like a real genre mashup. They've been doing this more and more these days, where a movie is a bit of everything. It's horror, it's comedy, it's drama, it's romance, it's everything. So there's something for everyone. But then overall, you can say, like, I don't like such a crazy mixed up movie. Okay, fine. You can say that about your life. I don't like such a crazy mixed up life. Too many times this life pushed me into survival reactions. I felt like I was going to die. I'm scared. I don't like this. Good. Feel that. Okay, respect it. You see, your human self, your movie character, which is more than just a movie character, it is really real. It's as real as you make it. Your human self is built for heaven. It's designed for a paradise. You are meant to experience life in the most beautiful, amazing, wonderful way. And your body, your feelings, you know that. You can imagine wonderful things. If you wouldn't experience pain if you couldn't also imagine how good life could be without the pain. This is important to understand. In short, you can't create something out of nothing, but you can create nothing out of something. In other words, like the movie, you could create this really awful, horrible movie out of amazing like special effects and actors and a huge budget and all of this stuff. You could create this awful movie, okay? And maybe it has some fans, some cult following, but you really, really don't like the movie. That would be like creating nothing out of something. You have to have something first in order to then not use it in the proper way and experience how deprived and pained you feel. Suffering comes out of knowing deep down that your life is meant to be wonderful. Going back to your childhood dreams, going back to like William Wordsworth saying, we come into this world trailing clouds of glory. That deep down inside, Earth could be an amazing place. Your life could be wonderful and amazing. And yet somebody has taken all these amazing resources and produced this awful movie, okay? And you don't want to trash your life. There's certainly, you want to treasure the best moments of your life. The peak moments. They're there, absolutely. Those are the times that you've probably had some where you have a peak moment of flow, things are really good. What is it, on a vacation and everything's wonderful and you're amazed, you see something beautiful, you're in a relationship and everything's amazing and you're like, life plans and like dreams, or you're starting a new job and it's like all these people are great and you're doing what you love to do, and you have these hopes and dreams that just bubble up really quickly when the time is right, when the situation feels really good. You can imagine that happy ever after. And then what happens is something changes, right? Something changes. And we are fundamentally primed and triggered to feel that change is our enemy. That's very unfortunate because change is a change of scene. And if you are the director of the movie of your life, then, great, new scene. Great opportunity to resolve all the tensions of the last scene. Great opportunity to use some great actors that we haven't seen yet in this movie. It's full of headline actors. And it's an opportunity to use new special effects and a new location. And, we're going to change the whole tone of the movie. It's going to be amazing. You want change to be your friend. But to do that, you need to feel like you're the director of your own life. You're the one creating this movie. So yes, you can create an experience of nothing out of something, but you've got to start with that something. And that something is the entire universe. Within you, you are a form of the entire universe. You have all the solutions, all the love of life, of incredibly emergent, unstoppable, inviolable life force. The scientists, physicists, they're just, physics is like a really like fairy tale place these days. Talk about quantum fields and stuff, and like time and space always thought to be like the fundamental fabric of the universe. It's like starting to seem like, well, actually it's a creation of the mind. We're somehow experiencing time and space, but there's something eternal, there's something infinite, these quantum fields going on, that's what's really happening behind the scenes. So a lot of spiritual people love to jump on the modern physics bandwagon, and that's fine as long as you realize, like, ultimately everything's a metaphor. It's like nothing is exactly physical or what it seems, but it's how you use it. Just like in the movie with your friends. You're watching this wonderful movie or an awful movie, but either way, you can get absorbed in it, but then you can remind yourself, this is a movie, this is a movie. This is what we're getting to. This is the spiritual human. This is your goal, to be able to be in both positions, in both experiences at once, combine the two. On one hand, you're absorbed in the movie of your life. You're enjoying it. On the other hand, whenever you need to, you can step back and just say, hey, this is a movie. And what's more, it's not all filmed. It's not all done. I'm the director. I'm actually directing this movie as I go. I can change it. And when you realize you're the director of your life and that you can change it, you can come out of the survival reactions, come out of the feeling of being victimized by somebody who's already directed your life and you have no choice, and all the catastrophizing imagination that comes to you, all the negative imagination of like, oh my God, the worst things are just going to keep getting worse, and the dictators are obviously taking over, and climate change is going to kill us all, and all this stuff. It's like, but it doesn't have to be that way. How can it not be that way? Because you have the resources of the universe. You're like this incredible director who has everything available. And it's like, you don't like how the movie's been going. You want to take some of the best scenes, some of the best possibilities, some of the best redemption, resolution, dreams and fantasies that you've had. And like, okay, let's go to the new scene. Let's make a new scene. You're going to make a new scene. That's what's happening. That's what the ascension is about. There's an old world that's dying, and it's not really dying, but the experience is coming to an end because people deep down, your very being is saying, this can't be it. This can't be all. This can't be what was meant to be. Your life energy, the momentum of the emergent property of your life, of all this quantum physics saying like, oh my gosh, the whole universe seems like finally miraculously tuned for life, and life just keeps emerging and life finds a way. That's you. That's your life. That's your being. That's the miracle of the universe experiencing itself as you. And so some people are experiencing the world's coming to an end. All you have to do is expand and change your beliefs. Change. Oh my gosh, yeah, change is your friend. Change is your friend. Let it be that, like, my survival reactions are coming up. I can't take this anymore. I cannot take a world that is taking me to the brink of destruction, and I'm terrified and terrorized, and I'm in a paralysis, and all the survival reactions. We'll talk about them. Appease, freeze, flight, and fight, and what they mean, where they come from. I can't take it anymore. I can't live this way. And then you can have more of the universe come in and say, you're right, you can't live this way. This was an experience. This was a movie which had a pretty hard beginning, but it's going to be beautiful. All the redemptions, all the resolutions, all the fantasies you've ever had, you're going to find the truth of them. Because as I said, you cannot create something out of nothing. If you were doomed to die, if life was meaningless, if you were a mistake, if you shouldn't have existed, if dictators and then violence take over, and all of the goodness in your heart and all of the love that you've ever been and shared, like if all of that meant nothing while the dictators take over and the whole world dies, that's nothing. Okay, if that's all life was, if you had no reference point for knowing that there should be more to life, you wouldn't suffer. You would just be like, I don't know. There's like these Buddhist parables. There's a picture of a guy. He's caught between a tiger going to eat him above and a chasm below, and he's just hanging on the side of a cliff, and he's just hanging by one little root, and he just sees this little flower, and he's like, oh, it's so beautiful. That's what it would be like if that's all life was. You would just be completely immersed in the moment. You would just like, I don't care if life is ending, if the world is ending. It's like, oh my God, I exist. Oh my God, look at some of the amazing, beautiful things around me. Oh my God, you'd be so immersed. If this were all that is, you would be so immersed in just whatever is beautiful. You would be so grateful to even exist. Oh my God, I even exist for another minute before the horrible things happen and the movie's over. But just, you would be so immersed in how wonderful life is if this was all that was meant to be. But no, because this is not the end of the story. This is not the end of the world. Because you have a sacred imagination that it's lit like a flame. It's coming from beyond. Because you have desired all of your life for greater things. You've had, since your childhood, you've had these dreams and imagination of what wonderful things you would do and experience, and the friends you would make, and the wonderful things that you would have someday. Because of all that, that's why you're terrified that you might die. That's why you feel experience and deprivation and lack. That's why you suffer. You're suffering only because you know how much better things could be, and that it will be that. So all you need to not be in the set of people who think the world is ending, and they will experience the world ending. It's kind of like going again with the movie analogy. Imagine this movie, it's sort of in two parts, and there's an intermission. And the first part is just grueling. It's just, oh my God. And there's so many people who are just like, that's it. I am not staying for the second part of the movie. Even though, like, all the advertisements, everybody's saying, I've seen this movie. It's like, don't worry. It's like the first part was just a setup. It's like the second part, everything is resolved. It's happy ever after. There are all these people that just run out of the movie theater screaming, I can't take it anymore. Those are the people who are going to experience the world ending. But no, you're on the spiritual path. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening to me. I'm one of the people that is so tuned in, and you've been tuned in yourself at many times. I'm only here to remind you of what you already have inside of yourself. I'm only here to help maybe say some words or give some images that will reinforce, and you'll say, oh, that's right. It's so good to hear somebody else say it. It makes a difference. It makes a difference when our reality has more reflections, more images, more companions, more friends who echo back the best dreams and hopes. So yeah, I'm tuned in. You've been tuned in at times. We're all on the spiritual path. We know that the world is not ending. The end of the old world. Yeah, I wanted that world to end. I wanted the suffering to end. I wanted the stuff that wasn't working to end. I was hoping that this was just going to be a two-part movie, and the first part was a grueling setup for all the wonderful things in the second half of the movie. And everybody said so, and all these tales of the afterlife, and these glimpses of a greater world beyond. Well, it's true. There's a whole second half of the movie, and what's more, the second half of the movie is where you find out you're the director, and the movie never has to end. You can keep going with the wonderful stuff. So don't get caught up in the survival reactions. Your survival reactions are simply your human self saying, yeah, this is insufferable. I can't live this way. That's the old belief system. That's the first part of the movie that was a setup. And you don't have to get paranoid. Somebody's trying to make me suffer, the Matrix, somebody. No, it's you. Yes, there are awful things to experience, and there are people and beings who want to perpetuate the suffering, but they're actually doing it to themselves and trying to get you to join them. That's actually how the universe works. The only way that anybody can, quote unquote, do anything to you is that first they are doing it to themselves. And they are utterly convinced and absorbed in the experience, and they want more players on their stage. They want more players in their scene. So yeah, there are a lot of people who have done it to themselves. They are in this state of suffering, and they keep perpetuating it with their negative imagination, and the blame of like all the the awful things that people did to me, and I'm going to get them back, and I'm going to destroy all my enemies, and then someday we'll have a wonderful world when we get rid of all the bad guys. And there's a lot of people like that. And what they don't realize is that in the eternal moment, in the eternal now, you forget the past. You forget the future. Oh, the past and future are very, very useful. It's part of that movie. But in the moment now, who's doing stuff to me? My own imagination, my own continual buy-in. The fact that I keep running the negative scripts, the negative imagination, the catastrophizing visions in my head. Why do I keep running that stuff? Oh, because I keep expecting there's going to be a payoff. There's some lie involved. You see, all of the negative world, it's based on fear, which is indicating lies. You think about it. The world that's so afraid. The dictators want to make you afraid. People are so afraid that they're just looking for someone to tell them what to do. They go into panic. When you're in panic, yeah, you pretty much like you're supercharged in this human activity, this masculine energy. It's a masculine and feminine, right? Feminine is about it being, ideals, imagination, values, principles. That's wonderful. You need the feminine. The feminine comes first. That's why there is a something out of which you can create an experience of nothing by not using the something. That there's a feminine, there's a goddess, there's a way forward that life is always calling you. And then there's this masculine energy where you take action and you just experience a little chunk of the infinite, eternal quantum fields, the infinite, eternal life. You experience a little chunk of it, a little block of it, a little process, a little simulation. And that's all the world is. So yeah, there are a lot of people who are hyper-focused on the current simulation, and they're not paying attention to the present moment of what's going on in their, the mindfulness where you start noticing, like, wait a minute, I don't have to keep thinking about the awful things. I don't have to keep thinking that I have to run out there and face all my enemies. I could do entirely different things. I could understand the universe in entirely different ways. And when I do, change is my friend. Change is your friend. So on the spiritual path, yeah, you're letting the old world end, and you will notice the human self, your avatar, your skin in the game, the part of you that's been really absorbed in the movie, it gets terrified. But don't let the terror feed you back into thinking that's all there is and going along with all the people who think that's all there is. There are all these people who live in a state of constantly, like, taking abuse. You can stay stuck. You can stay stuck. Yeah, you have had abusers. But if you're really mindful, you will notice that every abusive situation in your life, first what came was some kind of state of fear from a false belief, a false lifestyle, a false promise of what would work. And then you try it, and it's like, oh my God, that doesn't work. That leads me into, like, dangerous situations. And if you keep giving away your power, if you keep saying, oh no, I'm just a helpless victim of this, then yes, you will meet the people who themselves are so tortured, they want to torture you too. It's like a drowning person, and you're trying to help this drowning person, but like they're really strong, and they're just grabbing anything, and they're just going to drag you under. And you realize, like, I can't swim out there and try to, like, directly help this drowning person. They're going to drown me too. And that's when you learn the ways of, like, oh, I'm actually safe on the land. Oh, look, there's a rope. There's a life preserver. I can throw them all kinds of help here. Don't worry. You're not actually that far from shore. Nobody is that far from shore. It's just people are so deep in the suffering. And they're so deep in the human side, which is the side of you that's past-oriented, that's reality-oriented, that's movie-oriented, that feels it's really, really real. And it's a real experience, but there's more. There's more to you. That's why you're on the spiritual path. That's why you tune into the something out of which you had an experience of lack and nothing, but you always had an abundance of lack. You always have great success at experiencing failure. You always had, like, so many spiritual friends that you could venture into the company of some people who weren't your friend and would stimulate and encourage your worst imagination, but your spiritual friends are always saying, like, hey, anytime you want to wake up, like, this isn't all there is. So yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about the 4 survival reactions when your human self, who's so lost in the game, so lost in the simulation, and your human self is saying, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. You, as the spiritual being, the higher part of you, the part of you that has some perspective above the movie, above the belief systems, That spiritual part of you, when it, you look for anything that strengthens it. I'm giving you some ideas here. You're on the spiritual path. You're looking for ways to strengthen your perspective above the current reality. That spiritual part of you can come in and say, hey, human self, relax. I love you. I care about you. We're going to take cues from our guidance. We got spiritual friends who are going to show us the way out of dangers. So yeah, life will be uncomfortable at times, but it doesn't have to be terrible suffering. See, suffering is pain without end, and pain is separation from the truth of who you are, that you are a creator being with creator friends, that you can change any situation that you're not liking. You're just meant to jump into an experience and test the waters, see how you like it. And yeah, there are other worlds where beings are, have 99.9% wonderful lives, and they have a lot of they believe in themselves, they understand the universe is a good, loving place, and they would not follow a traumatic experience. There are other worlds where as soon as a lie shows up and says, you're a loser, there's no God, everything's going to die, beings in other worlds, they would just say, what an awful thought. That would make a terrible movie. Nobody would go to it. Forget it. I don't believe that. That's ridiculous. And beings, and you in this other world, you would go immediately back to the wonderful stuff. And what's the next wonderful scene of my life? We want to plan together. Oh, right. And then you jump into it. But on Earth, for whatever reasons, it has a lot to do with just how incredibly abundant, incredibly fertile, incredibly full of life energy the Earth is. Earth is a really, really amazing place with life energy that creates life experiences at every level. I mean, there's, if you tune into the energies like healers and mystics are, there's a whole etheric, vibrational, energetic level at which Earth is incredibly fertile and abundant, and that's where all the nature spirits live. And then there's just this solid, baseline kind of rock bottom physical world that's incredibly abundant too. I mean, look at all the ecosystems, look at all the different kinds of people, look at all the different experiences you can have on Earth. It's a really, really generous platform for experiencing a lot of different things, including the lies. That's what has created all the suffering in the world. That's what has created the feeling of the world is ending, is the lies, the false promises, where in another better world you would simply say, oh, that's not true. I would feel miserable if I believed that there's no hope for me, that I'm a loser. Maybe I had a chance once and I blew it. Other people can do things I never can, and I can't take care of myself and all that stuff. You would just say, that's not true. But on Earth, there's already so many lies in progress. There's already so much scary stuff going on. You're like, oh my God, maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. You have this sort of split personality, this spiritual schizophrenia, right? Where it's like times you're like tuned into the spiritual world and you're like, oh yeah, I don't have to be afraid. Like my higher self can guide me, and I don't have to be with, the abusive people, and I don't have to listen to the people who are planning the end of the world, and I don't have to go. I can hang out with people that I like, and we can encourage and reinforce each other's best imagination, and we can tune into nature, and we can tune into our souls and the spiritual world and have solutions. Yeah, that's what you feel in your best moments. But then, because the movie is so in progress with so many lies and so many scary things, your human being starts going into those survival reactions, and that's what we're going to talk about in detail today. Those 4 survival reactions, and you get caught up in them. And the way to get out of that is just more mindfulness. And this is sort of the trap that a lot of people get into. Is like, what, you want me to experience in more detail the things that are already painful and scaring me? Like, no way, I'm going to run away from myself. I want to experience less of myself. Well, the more you experience less of yourself, the more that the current program is just going to run to the most, egregious conclusions. No, you want to experience more of yourself so that you can discover and remember, oh yeah, there's more to me than just the current human being who's feeling threatened and freaked out. There's, oh yeah, I remember there's the spiritual path and the best moments of my life when I feel guided, and the synchronicities and the opportunities, and then those things will start happening again. And you're like, wow, life can be magical. And it's like, yeah, because life is just a kind of waking dream. It is magical. It is, you are the director. The universe is your crew. You have unlimited resources, and you are continually creating new scenes for yourself in your life. So you don't have to keep playing out the old scenes that are freaking out your human being. Your human being is freaked out for a good reason. You're in survival mode for a good reason, but you need to be able to say, hey, human being, it's not you who's going to die. It's the old world. It's the false beliefs. They're going to die. And they're going to still be there, but it'll be more of an Akashic record kind of thing, if you've heard of the Akashic records. It's the idea of the Akashic records is like all possibilities, all potentials are sort of stored in this neutral form in this library. And that's how creation really is. It's a library of every possibility, and it's very neutral. It's just a bunch of books on the shelf. And what you want to have an experience of, and I love this image, this works for me a lot, is that your higher self, which is the you, who's more of the universe and has all of the answers that you'll ever need. Your higher self is like the most wonderful teacher, mentor, professor. And of course, you would want your higher self to have at their disposal this vast library of every case study, every possibility, so that when you stumble into a situation, your higher self can say like, oh, no problem, no problem. Let's get the book on that. Oh, see, it's all spelled out here. That it's you don't have to go down that path. These are case studies. You can see. So this is where you bring mindfulness. You bring more consciousness to a painful conscious experience, and more consciousness. Yeah, it can be a little more painful at first to like, oh, I was so busy at running away. A lot of people are really good at numbing the pain. A lot of people are really good at, from their survival reactions, they just run away from themselves. I'm going to pursue pleasures and escapism. I'm going to blame everything on somebody else and being a victim. I'm going to fantasize but never act on things. Fantasies can be a good start of something, but you got to take action. You got to ground it. This is what grounding means. When you make that first sense of a fantasy, of an imagination, a pleasure, anything, you got to ground it. You got to actually apply it to your current human life so it grows in a way that's solid and secure and reliable. You don't want to have this separate fantasy life where every once in a while somebody drags you back into the real world. My pain drags me back into like, oh yeah, my God, my life is horrible. Or, my enemy drags me back into like, oh my God, yeah, I'm being hunted and killed and all this stuff. Like, no. You want to be connecting your best moments so they're not just fantasies. That one spiritual teacher, Lazarus, I really like, helped me a lot in my 20s. He referred to it as fantasy versus fantasia. Fantasia is when you take your best human images, your best human fantasies, and you ground them in the present moment. I want to do something that actually grows this feeling I have. And if I'm not a billionaire, who cares? I have enough money to do the next thing I need to do. I'm going to feel like a billionaire in the current situation. That's what you want to do. You want to use the fantasies of how good life can be to tune into the energy that you can then apply to your current life. And that's when you're living in the moment. That's when you're not seduced and lost in the past and the future. The past and the future are stories that we create in our minds in the moment. That's why people can change their past. And certainly we know that people can change their future, right? At least we have that, right? At least you have some hope. Well, as people get more and more hopeless with the world, oh my God, the world is ending, the dictators are taking over, everybody's being herded like frightened cattle, the ecosystem is ending, there's no future. Well, you don't want to get to a point of having no future, okay? It's like, go ahead and if you have to think it's a fantasy that ETs will save you, angels will save you, nature spirits will save you, if you just think that's a fantasy, go ahead. Let it be a fantasy for now, but act on it in little ways and spend some time in nature and talk to the nature spirits and have some mystical spiritual experiences like, oh my God, like I just started giggling and I saw these lights and a squirrel, some creature came up and looked at me and like, oh my God, I felt the connection of all living things. Like there's a life force behind all of this. Yes, there is. Again, you want to have a sense of there's your higher self, this great mentor, professor, guide, teacher in a vast library, a beautiful library that has every possibility. And if you find yourself in the horror section of the library, that's right. It's like, just talk to your higher self. It's like, I'm not enjoying this. And your higher self is like, yeah, I was hoping you would realize you're not enjoying yourself. Let's get you over to the good side, the really wonderful side of the library where it's like, oh, wonderful manuals and instructions on utopias and dreams and like how to, but you just got to remember the whole library is there. You got to be willing to let go of those people and those parts of the library, those possibilities that want to keep experiencing. There are people who want to sit in the horror section of the library and just keep reading that stuff. And not just fantasy horror, but actual historical horror, because lots of horrible things have happened in history, and you hope that they won't happen to you, and they don't have to happen to you. But they will happen in a encoded potential form, and this is what people need to understand. The seeds of all things are in all things. You have all potentials within you because that's consciousness. Consciousness just automatically dreams up of all possibilities, and then you choose the possibilities that you really want. So don't be afraid that you do have this imagination capacity. You can imagine wonderful things, and you can imagine horrible things. And then the negativity, all the pessimistic people in the past that you want to be done with, they say like, oh, your fantasies, your dreams of wonderful things. Oh, that's not true. That's not true. But that's life. That's, no, that's not true. That's not gonna. But your worst fantasies of like, oh, the world's going to end and dictators and cataclysms and like horrible stuff. Oh, that's real. That's going to happen. It's like, but that's not life. Who would... Yeah, I mean, if life was nothing but, suffering and then you die... life never would have created itself in the first place. If life was meant to be just conflict until, it never would have, the first atoms would have never formed molecules. They're just fighting each other, and the molecules never would have formed the building blocks of life and DNA and stuff. They would have just kept fighting each other. No, instead what you see is at every level of existence, of the physics itself, there's incredible synergistic properties of things just work together, and before you know it, like there's this emergent property of like, oh wow, I never would have imagined that out of a few building blocks of life, all of this would come about. And then your higher self is in the library of all possibilities saying like, oh yeah, but this is why the library even exists, because we want to house and store all the negative stuff over here. And we'll refer to it when you start getting scared, and we can look and see all the case studies. But come on, we got an infinite library of infinite possibilities. That's what you want to do. So that's what the spiritual path is about. It's about mastering your survival reactions, realizing like, yeah, that's a really important part of me. That's the human part of me that kind of dipped my toe in the water. Like, how does it feel to open that book? How does that feel to start staging that scene? How does it feel to consider these claims might be true that are horrible claims, and I think they're actually lies? And you get back to like, oh yeah, I'm not going to die. The lies are going to die. We're going to close that book. It's like, but you don't chase after. You don't try to convert all the people. See, that's what locks you into the suffering. And that's what the survival reactions tell you, is like survival reactions are like, oh my God, this is the only thing there is, and I've got to change it. I've got to make these people stop wanting to kill somebody like me. Like, yeah, there are people who want to kill somebody like you, but they don't have to see you. They don't have to find you. They will find other people who buy into their system more. There are people who want to fight to the death. Let them fight to the death. You can step back. You can be in that spiritual self and say, hey, higher self, show me more parts of the library of infinite life. There's got to be more to it than this. And your human self will calm down by applying. It's this paradox of like a little consciousness gets you in the pain and the suffering, but more consciousness rises above, and you realize like, oh, this is how it can be solved. And the paradox too of like, even just to see that the human suffering is limited actually makes the pain go away. Your human being can actually generate internal healing and internal pain relief, natural pain relievers the dopamine or even the DMT. I mean, you can have amazing, you can trigger amazing human reactions of like 1 minute I was suffering and I thought, I'm all there is and I'm going to die. And the next minute I'm with my higher self and I've got some visions of how things could be and it's feeling really real and connecting to my memories and like this is starting to make sense. And all of a sudden like, wow, I'm not in pain the way I was. I'm uncomfortable. You're a human being. I like to call it survivability. So you want to move your human self from a state of panic and anxiety and the suffering and feeling like it's going to die. You can move it to a state of like, okay, this is very uncomfortable. It's like I'm in the middle of a bad movie or I'm reading a book about really awful things, but I can walk out of the movie. I can close the book. I'm with my higher self. Let's go to a better place. Great. Was waiting for you to say, let me take me please to a better place, and then your higher self will. That's one characteristic of higher beings, higher consciousness. It's waiting for you to ask for it because it wants you to grow. It doesn't want to dominate you. It doesn't want to crush your spirit. Higher beings want you to have your own identity, your own free will, and that can seem like a little bit of a curse because if you don't ask for help, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in higher beings, they won't intercede. They will quietly, calmly help you have a great world of possibilities. You can look around and see nature and like, oh my God, nature is so beautiful. I wish my life was beautiful. And it's like your higher self is like, it can be, don't worry. But the more you ask for help, the more it can really kind of come in. And because it was waiting for you to be more conscious. Whereas the negative beings who want to their horror book, their horror movie to be all that it is because they're so invested in it and they think they can rule it and they can rule you. The negative beings, they don't want you to have free will. They don't want you to know that you can ask for help and get more help. They don't want you to know that you can rise above things. They don't want you to know that there's a beginning of a new world so that you're happy to let the old world end because the old world sucked anyway. You're going to take the best things of the old world and find out, oh, that was always the new world. See, it's always actually been two worlds. You don't have to separate. You don't have to work hard on like, I've got to sort out the good from the bad and I've got to convince people and all this. No, it was always two totally separate worlds. Anything that worked always works, is always there for you. Anything that didn't work, never worked. It was a lie. Let it go. The worlds are already separate. So there's a lot of talk of like, the realities are separating and diverging. You know, let the people go who are basically going to go to hell, and they want to go to hell. Part of them is like, you know, I think I can rule hell. I think I can kill all my enemies and rule. I think I can work really hard and make lots of money and retire. I think I can. Let them play their games of suffering. You know, the chasing the carrot that they never reach. You know, that's what lies are about. They false promises. It's only because you're a human being who needed and wanted to be safe, to be happy, to be secure. You bought the lies that said, hey, yeah, come on over here. You're going to work really hard. You're going to suffer. You're going to be in a battle. But someday you're going to get everything you want. It's like, why would I wait for someday when I could be with my higher self and feel really good and safe right now? Like, I'm not going to suffer for someday when I can have. So that's when you tune into your higher self, that's when you get to a state of what I call it survivability. Your human being can settle down, calm down. Like, life is uncomfortable, but I'm not in the pain and suffering anymore, and I've got hope. And your spiritual self comes alive, and then you're strengthening. You're becoming more of your higher self. You're becoming more of the universe. And that part of you, I call it the meta joy. It's maybe not a joy grounded in current reality. My current reality can kind of suck, and my human self has some hardships that used to be suffering and endless pain, but now my human being is like, yeah, take care of me. And I'm like, don't worry, human being, I'm going to take care of you. So you have a meta joy, a spiritual meta joy, where it's like, oh my God, it's so good to understand things. You know, when you really understand things, and you're like, even though I made lots of mistakes and my life is a mess, now I know the answers. Now it all makes sense. Now I can see why it was that way. Now I learned the life lessons. Now I know I'm really with my higher self in the library of all possibilities. Yeah, let's like close the book on some of the old stuff and let's move to the new stuff. So you have this hope, the spirit is incredibly strong this way when you're willing to ask for help. So, I've talked enough for my inspired introduction. Let it be that, feel yourself. You asked for help. You came to this class. What drew you to this class? You came to this class, this presentation of mine. And it's not about me giving you the answers, it's about me reminding you of the answers. It helps to ground things, to hear echoed back in the reality. Oh, somebody else is saying the kind of things that I wanted to be true, that I knew to be true in my best spiritual moments. You're the one in charge of this. You came here today because you were asking your higher self, I want more answers. I want to feel that hope of knowing how things could be, what I could do next to make things work. And that very fact of knowing that there's hope and the answers helps my human being to calm down so I'm not in survival anymore. You get in a flow of being yourself. That's what you came here for today. And that's what I hope to be sharing with you, because I love that state of being with the higher self and knowing that everything will be okay.